Today we're taking a look at an amazing Jinan game I had the other day, and it's so good that it's actually making me reconsider my initial assessment of this ship. If you guys watched the videos on the Pan-Asian cruiser line, you'll know that I had an awful experience with the Jinan when I first got it, and that always kind of didn't sit well with me, so much so that every once in a while, off stream, just by myself, I would play one or two games of Jinan here and there. And I'll be honest, they really hadn't gone too well. But I had that really amazing Smolensk game the other day, and it got me reconsidering how I'm playing my smoke cruisers. And perhaps since I was so confident and aggressive in my Smolensk, that's part of why that game went so well. And maybe I needed to play more aggressive with my Jinan. So this is in different build. I completely respect my commander, and I moved around some some of my upgrades, sorry. So this is Reload Mod Jinan. I'm going all in on these guns, trying to get the most damage out of them as possible. And you know what? It feels a lot better. And in this game, I am going to play a little bit more aggressive than I otherwise would have, partially down to being forced to because of the lack of range. We don't have the range of the Smolensk like I had. We certainly don't have the range of a range mod Jinan, so we're stuck having to play this closer range gameplay and relying on the decent upper belt armor that of 32 millimeters, which allows us to bounce even some battleship shells, and of course these smoke screens. We're getting radared, but we managed to finish off this Schlieffen just in time. This of course is the Stalingrad radar, and it's very good information to know that he's used it. I also am playing like this because I know the 1, 2, 3 lines have been cleared out by my Holland, so me pushing like this, basically giving broadside to the entire 1, 2, 3 lines, is totally fine, because we know they don't have any ships there. This is a great position to take, assuming it's not being pushed by the 1, 2, 3 lines by the enemies, because this is an excellent angle on any ship from the enemy team trying to take over the middle of the middle cap. You'll notice we're going to get great angles on the Yoshino. I don't even need my smoke screen here to fire undetected. And as this Holland pushes out into the middle cap, we're going to gain some angles on him as well. So already up to 51,000 damage, which is getting close to the average I initially had in that ship. It was somewhere in the 60 to 70k range, which is atrocious for a tier 10 ship. And yeah, I probably was playing the ship wrong and needed to learn to play it just a little bit. The Stalingrad is going to back up. He managed to take out our destroyer here, but I'm really not too scared of the Stalingrad here since I was reasonably well angled and I'm able to get behind this island in time before he's able to reload. And this Holland here is actually going to get taken out by a teammate. Just know that as we skip ahead here, I did sit here for quite some time and I had to wait for the Holland's torpedoes to pass since I knew he was going to be looking at me for just a little bit. Moving on though, we're going into position to farm this Stalingrad. This is an incredibly strong position. Like I was in earlier in my Jinan, the Stalingrad is in that position for his team, and he's under no pressure from the 1, 2, 3 lines. So he could have just sat there and probably been reasonably okay, but that's why I moved over to this position to try and counter him. This is something I'm trying to do in my smoke cruisers now, trying to think more about what positions I'm taking and who I'm trying to farm. Of course, they don't have very many battleships in this game, so the heavier cruisers, the more stationary large targets, are certainly what I want to be going after. Also, trying to help my submarines and destroyers in their fights is something I want to be doing as well, but those are a little more rare. I'm trying to really play around farming out some of these key ships that the enemy team have. The Stalingrad, though, is going to be saved by Kuznetsov, probably the most overpowered commander in the game. You'll notice he was on 3 fires there, and Kuznetsov instantly put them all out, and then for the next 30 seconds or so, he's going to be healing up as well as having reduced dispersion. Or sorry, increased dispersion for enemy ships firing at him. So harder to hit and healing and damage control all at once. Kuznetsov is insane, and the Stalingrad is going to get away because of that. But that's not a huge deal. He's been forced to wait, and he's not able to radar anymore. So our submarine has a pretty good hold on the middle cap, and I'm actually taking, or at least stalling, the middle zone. And as the enemy team is about to push in, you'll notice we're using our torpedoes. This is another thing that I wasn't really considering, that playing more aggressive also enables the torpedoes to be much better in the Jinan, since they have a decent range, but if I'm sitting back at 15, 16 kilometers, they're never going to be all that useful. So trying to play more aggressive in my Jinan, positioning myself in such a way to farm out stationary targets, and especially trying to put myself in front of enemy pushes. Hopefully I'm going to get spotting like I am here, and I'm able to farm out their push. That's the entire goal behind a lot of this plan here. And yeah, just look at the number of torpedoes we're able to dump into the water. If I was able to turn, we'd actually get a full spread of 40. And yeah, just like the Yu Yang, deep water torpedoes are tough to deal with, and this many certainly is a challenge. Although I don't think I actually hit any of this game. So that goes to show that even with the gun power, this ship is still pretty solid. I don't think it's going to be the most meta-defining or best tier 10 ship in the game. The Smolensk certainly is a much more powerful smoke cruiser, but it's good enough, I think. It's certainly not as bad as I was saying it was. Getting a nice double fire there on the Gibraltar, and he's actually going to go down quite quickly. So even though this game is looking a little out of hand, the enemy team certainly has more ships, and the points are relatively even, we're actually going to do a pretty good job here of taking them down as they're trying to push into these capture zones. Even though our smoke screen runs out here, you'll notice that we have 30 seconds or so left before we have another smoke screen. It's the real power behind a lot of these Pan-Asian smokes. They don't last nearly as long as American smokes, but fortunately they have a shorter cooldown than the vast majority of smoke screens in the game. So it really enables this sort of kiting in front of an enemy team pushing playstyle, because we're almost able to smoke up again. And since this ship has okay armor, don't want to be relying on it, but you'll notice we bounced a little bit there from the Napoli. We're already getting to our next smoke screen. Unfortunately, though, we're definitely getting flanked by submarines, so it's really not going to be all that useful. And honestly, I shouldn't be using it here. Although I am. I'm going to click my smoke screen, and this is a bit of a mistake, bit of a misplay. But as I play the ship more, I'm going to get a little better at using my smoke screens effectively. These subs are well within assured detection while I'm firing, so my smoke fire penalty is more than enough to keep me spotted here. So really not the most useful smoke screen, although it will help me get away eventually, once I stop firing, and of course once we take out the midways planes. Like I mentioned in my initial impressions of this ship, the AA really is nothing to write home about, so this midway is going to guaranteed get his drop through, even with our defensive fire up, and we're next to an Ohio, probably one of the best 2 battleships for anti-aircraft. So yeah, of course it's not the best drop, and we are helping out, but it would be nice if light cruisers with defensive fire were scary to deal with. I certainly would enjoy it a little more than if the carrier's just kind of allowed to come over here and strike whenever he wants to without really much effort. Now, as we're getting into the later stage of this game, you'll notice we're still up on points. And that's crucial because we held the middle cap for so long. And I'm kiting away, I'm trying to get away, and we do that successfully. We're leaving this Napoli for our team to fight, and I'm going after this Shimakaze. You'll notice that he was last spotted in the middle ring coming out to this flank. And I really wanted to catch him because he was pinned in here by this island on my right. Unfortunately, I didn't catch him in time, and I did require my carrier's help to come spot for me. You'll notice I managed to dodge the torpedoes, but again, no hydro on this ship, making it a little bit challenging to deal with some of these torpedo destroyers. Pushing into them can be a little scary in this ship, especially given that Shimatorps hit very hard, and we only have 35,000 HP. Now here, again, I'm actually making a misplay, and I really want to highlight this. I should have smoked and stopped shooting. As soon as I took out the enemy carrier's main attack planes and it was just the fighter squadron left, I shouldn't be shooting at the Napoli, and I should have gone dark, maybe even using my smoke screen if I could have. The Shimakaze is within my smoke detect, but me continuing to shoot at this Napoli is only wasting some of my HP left. I'm trying to take an obscure angle to go after this Shimakaze, which allowed us to dodge the first torpedo salvo. But since he has one rack up, it's more than likely he has the other two. So I'm going to try and turn behind him. I'm trying to force him to go as broadside as possible to me to get the angle to actually torp me. This opens him up to much more devastating fire from our main guns, and maybe we can dodge? Not quite. Unfortunately, I slowed down, but we did manage to kill the Shimakaze, and because of that, we actually won this game. So 134k may not look like the ultimate Jinan game, but given our base XP, I would certainly say we had a massive impact on winning this game, and it certainly surprised me and makes me reconsider the Jinan. So while we take a look at the build, let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Pan-Asian cruiser line and what you think specifically about the Jinan. Personally, I think it might not be too bad of a ship. Certainly better than what I was saying initially. I can admit I was a little bit quick to call this one of the worst tier 10s. I don't think that's quite the case anymore, but I don't think it's the best tier 10 in the game, that's for sure. As far as the commander, I switched to continuing running some of the concealment and survivability upgrades, but you'll notice I'm taking heavy HE and sap now. This is a free 10% damage buff, since our guns are smaller than 149 millimeters. I'm also taking Fill the Tubes as well as Swift Fish. Unfortunately, I couldn't quite fit the torpedo damage, but having these torps go a little faster, and certainly having them reload quicker, is a lot of fun. You could also run Demo Expert if you wanted to buff the main guns even further. I think this is a much better build, and especially with the equipment running Main Battery Mod 3, this is just going to make the Jinan perform much better in my opinion. At least better than what I was doing with my ultra passive Scaredy Cat range mod build. I think that was my biggest issue, is I wasn't confident enough playing this ship, and I was playing scared. And because of that, I didn't get very good results. So now I'm going to have to play the Jinan more to really define what I think about this ship, since I'm kind of conflicted at the moment. But that's one good Jinan game, and thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.